Hey everyone, welcome to the Steady Worth podcast. I am here with Rachelle Nelson. Super excited to have her on the podcast. She is an entrepreneur and she does emotional release coaching. And I'm going to have her kind of kick off and tell us a little bit more about what that is. Super excited for this conversation, and I will pass it over to you. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This is so fun. So, yes, I really help entrepreneurs get to what's going on inside their body and their nervous system and what things are just keeping them blocked from hitting their next level, whatever that looks like for them. For everybody, it's different, but I really enjoy just helping entrepreneurs connect back into their body and just discover like what from the past is affecting them in the present and going to affect them in the future.
Cool. And for those people who have literally no idea what emotional release is, I have an understanding mostly because I've talked to you before, but I've also worked with a functional medicine doctor before who used to do a variety of different techniques, kind of help uncover what like root causes of your health issues, your gut issues and things like that. But what
Yes.
would be a good explanation of what could someone expect when you say that?
Yeah, that's a really great question. There's a lot of different answers in
Okay,
a sense
great.
because I use a lot of different modalities. And so every
Yeah,
modality creates a different type of shift, if you want to say.
sure.
Like sometimes an emotional release work, we're literally going back and we're changing an actual memory in the brain and we're rewiring the nervous system. So it stops going back to that memory to predict the future because that's literally what all of our brains are doing all the time is they're always going to back to the past to predict the future. And so if
Yeah.
we and I mean, I'm going to go into this for a second, but I'm like, this plays right into our reticular activating system, which a lot of us entrepreneurs, if we've done any type of understanding of how the brain works, the reticular activating system is like the filtration system that we
Okay.
are seeing everything in the world through. So when we look at a Facebook page, for example, we don't actually notice all the things on the Facebook page because if we did, our brains would like blow up. It's way too much information. And so when we're looking at a Facebook page, our brain is like, look there, there's what we need to see, and it's our confirmation bias, is what it is.
Oh, yeah.
But
Okay.
it's also looking for opportunities, but it's based on our subconscious. So if our
Yes.
subconscious is going back to the past to predict the future, how are we going to see opportunities that are bigger because our reticular activating system is constantly going back to the past to predict the future. And so,
Interesting.
yeah, so like there's so many times where I'm working with a client, and once we kind of get a breakthrough, which is going to be a different amount of time for every single person, and everybody has different amounts of negative stuff or trauma, however you want to say it. But when we get a breakthrough, they'll like start having ideas. They'll start, they'll get a breakthrough of like, oh, I could do this, right? Where that never even crossed their mind before
Interesting.
because they couldn't, that their reticular activating system was like, no, we can't do that. So we're not going to show them that opportunity.
Interesting. So this is
Yeah.
like literally your brain creates a filter over time based on past experiences that
Yes.
when you're looking at things or working or moving throughout your day, you're basically filtering out
Yes.
information based on so that your brain can basically move faster. I mean, this is like
Yes.
basic like brain 101, right?
Yes.
To a certain
Exactly.
extent.
100%.
So, how on earth did you get into this? Like how did you discover it? Like how did you like what was your journey like to get to this place?
Yes. Okay. So are you ready for a story?
Yes, I am ready for a story.
Okay, I'm a storyteller, so all
Great.
right. So my entrepreneurship journey started when I was 16, and I was sewing clothes. I was doing some custom stuff. I was doing a lot of mending, and that was like my entrepreneurship start. Was like I started a sewing business, and then when I was 21, I started selling Cutco knives. And so I got into sales, loved it, had so much fun. Um, and and I'm gonna go back to the Cutco knives, like as
I
I
love
like
that you
in
were
the
selling
story.
Cutco knives. I remember back in the day when my parents would get door knocks
Yes.
for the Cutco knife. Yes.
Oh my word. So in my day, we were getting referrals from people for people they knew, and then we would cold call them basically and be like, "Hey, I know such and such, they said you would be a perfect fit for this." So I would do that. So yeah.
That. Oh my gosh. So you've
Oh
been
my
cold
goodness.
calling young.
Oh yeah. When I was 21, I started cold calling.
That is
Crazy.
awesome.
And so that was kind of like that taught me like sales skills. It taught me, all of that. Then, I got married and had kids. And so I really couldn't do in-person demos anymore. Because you can't really take your kid with you to a demo very easily.
Right.
You could, but that would just end up being
For
like,
Cutco knives, it would be slightly
yeah,
dangerous, I think.
exactly. I mean, it wasn't gonna work. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, what can I do at home? And I taught some piano lessons. Oh my word, I hate teaching piano lessons. And then I found Young Living essential oils, which you can see behind me. And I started being a brand partner for essential oils. And part of the reason was like literally, like my husband was dealing with so many health issues, and we really needed to like get non-toxic stuff into our home, and there was literally no budget for it. So I was like, well, if I could make the money that I need to get the product, then I can get this into our home. And it totally changed his health, like drastic change over 9 months of going toxin free. And so I'm helping people with their health and wellness. I'm also helping other, people who want to be an entrepreneur, who want to sell Young Living oils. And I start, coaching them and mentoring them and just doing
Cool.
everything that I can to help them be successful. So I had a team of, I don't know how many brand partners I had when I was at my peak, but at least 8 people that I was like coaching and mentoring and trying to help them build their business. Well, throughout all of this, I've kind of left out all of the emotional trauma that I had been through. And so there was just like massive amounts of trauma that I was like working on healing from.
Yeah.
And so the people that I was attracting into my business also had a lot of trauma. And so
Interesting.
what was happening was like I could give them all the mindset. I could give them the strategy. I could give them tons of resources. You would not believe how many resources I have created in 8 years of trying to help people, build this
Yeah.
business because I just want to see women successful. Like that is like my thing. Like I just want to see you succeed. And so I would do all the things. I would work my butt off. And they just could not get past like the trauma, like the impact that the trauma was having on their ability to go out and, connect with people and sell them on something and get a no, like it was just such a massive block in their life, even though they really wanted it to work. And I was
Yeah.
like, what do I do? Like, how do I help them? Because I could
Yeah.
coach them till I'm blue in the face and they're not going to do anything.
Yeah. Interesting. Because the coaching was
So,
more around like the mindset and
yes,
the action, like how do
yes,
you maybe habit it out of your life?
exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's kind of where I was. And then I was
Yeah.
also like in my own life, like I had hit a certain rank and then I couldn't get anywhere past that. It didn't matter how hard I
Interesting.
worked. It didn't matter just any of that. It was like I hit that and then it was like downhill from there. And I was like, what on earth? Like we were on a roll. Like we hit that with such momentum. And of course, there was a lot of different things at play, including like it was during COVID and there was like all these things. But still, I was like, shouldn't I be able to like keep going? But it was
Yeah.
like no. Like and so I was like, okay, like what's happening here? And
Yeah.
so then I'm like, I've healed, I've learned enough in my personal growth development at this point because I've been doing
Yeah.
personal growth development since I was 21, right? By
Yeah.
this point, I've learned enough to know like, oh, if if you are having a lot of money objections, that means that you are believing stuff around money. That's why you get a bunch of money
Interesting.
objections. Yeah, so it's all limiting beliefs around money that cause other people to bring you money objections. And so I'm like trying to like dig into that myself because I'm like, okay, I'm getting money objections out the wazoo. Like, what on earth? So I do like all the conscious stuff. I'm journaling about it and I'm reframing it. I'm getting coaching around it. And during this whole there's so much that happened in these years. I'm trying to boil it down to like the most important pieces. But
Yeah.
like during this amount of time, my husband has a freak accident with the top of a glass stove, and he cuts 4 tendons and a major nerve, and my body goes into full on adrenal burnout. It was
Oh,
so bad.
wow.
I would wake up, I would feed the kids breakfast, and I'd have to go back to bed for a 2-hour nap every single day. I was absolutely exhausted. I mean, this was like just after years and years of chronic stress. And so that was like the
Yeah.
the straw that broke the camel's back. It wasn't a straw,
Yeah.
but it sure broke it. And so and so all of this is happening, right? And I'm in health and wellness, so I know what to do at this point to support my adrenals because I've been doing this long enough. I've learned all these things, and so
Yeah.
I'm doing all the physical things. And also by this point, I had some inkling and some understanding about just like, okay, so emotions get stored in the body. I had like a small inkling of that.
Yeah.
And so I'm taking all the right physical supplements for my adrenals. And yes, I am seeing a change. Like I'm getting some energy back for sure. But it was like I'm very intuitive. And so I was just like, I knew that, okay, I'm here with my adrenals. We started here, but I'm like, I know I could be up here. Like something's stalling out. And this is after 6 months of like consistency. Okay.
Yeah.
So I finally call up a friend. All right, and he did muscle testing, and I had learned muscle test. I was like getting into muscle testing more myself, a little bit, but he was able to muscle test virtually. That's what I'm trying to say. So I called him up and I was like, okay, so here's the scoop with my adrenals. Can you please help me figure out what is going wrong? Like, why can I not get past this? And so he starts muscle testing, and he's like, okay, well, only 16% of your adrenal issues is physical. And I'm going to get the numbers wrong here,
Interesting.
but hear me out.
That's
It was
okay.
basically
We won't
like,
know.
yeah, unless you do the math and you'll be like, she was not at 100%.
Well, we
But it was
might with the
like,
math with the finance crowd, but it's okay.
I don't remember the exact amounts, but it's basically 16% was physical, like 69% was emotional, and like 24% was spiritual. And it was like light bulb, right? Just like a
Interesting.
giant light bulb let off in my mind, and I was like, "Oh my word. You mean to tell me that for 6 months I have spent so much money on supplements and that wasn't even the biggest problem?"
Interesting.
And so he was like, he was kind of prophetic actually. He was like, well, you know how to release emotions. And I was like, I do? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, nah, I don't think so. But finally I was like, okay, let's just see. Let's just try this. So I
Yeah.
go into my office and I'm just doing like what I can think of, and I'm releasing some emotions because by this time I had gotten my certification in aroma freedom, so I kind of like changed the modality and did it differently, and I released all this stuff out of my adrenals, out of my kidneys, out of my lungs, out of my heart. It's like a full body experience, and it was wild, and
So when you release, like, not to
yeah.
like get into how it works too much, but like when you release an emotion, like it's obviously not a cognitive process,
No,
or
it's
is it?
very
Not at all.
intuitive. It's
It's
very
very
like
intuitive.
connecting with the subconscious. Yeah. And
Interesting.
then
Okay.
releasing it out of the body, and then the body's able to shift and move that energetic block is really what's happening. So if you think
Okay.
about when a trauma happens and you're not able, and I could say big T trauma, little T trauma, you
Yeah.
would be surprised at like how many people, we're doing a session and this thing from, high school comes up and they never would have thought that that was the thing.
Interesting.
Okay, you just have no idea how your brain actually
Interesting.
like stores all this stuff until you start doing this. And you're like,
Yeah.
what? I would never have figured out that that was connected. Even today on my call with my clients today, like they found some crazy things and figured out that it was connected and we would have never guessed. Like if I had been there coaching them, I would never have been like, oh, like this thing from, before you were born has led to, you're not safe to be successful. Like, no, I would never have figured that out. But I just muscle
Interesting.
tested. I just asked the body, like, tell me what's going on here. And then they were able to like get to the rest of it by just listening. Anyway,
Crazy. Okay.
it's crazy. So, all that to say is I did this massive emotional release session on myself and it was the wildest experience. And I felt so massively different after that. Like I had such
Wow.
peace. I had processed so much fear around the future. And it for people who listen to this who are also like believers, I was also delivered from a spirit of fear without realizing that that's what was happening in that moment. But like I
Wow.
got to the emotional roots of why it had been there and then it had to leave.
Interesting.
And so it was leaving my body
Amen.
and that's, yeah, praise the Lord.
Amen.
So it's just so interesting how you can, get to the bottom of these things in different ways, basically. So that was a huge, like the peace. I mean, I had never felt such peace in my whole life
Wow.
until that moment. It was wild. So
Praise
then
God.
yes, thank you, Lord. So I call up my friend again and I have him re-muscle test. And my adrenals had gone from, I want to say it was like 69%. I have the screenshot somewhere, but 69% function to over 80% function. Or 84, I think, just with that one session. And it was like, wow, like my energy just like whoop, like it was
Yeah.
crazy.
Like no more 2 hour
Um,
naps.
right, exactly. It was huge.
Yeah.
And so
Cool.
then, I'm in the physical health and wellness, right? And so I'm like, oh my word, like we've been missing this whole huge piece. Like, how do I like help other people like get to the bottom of their physical health stuff? Because that's what I was in the business of. And so that's kind of how I got into more emotional release work. I got my certification, mind, body, spirit release. At this point, I was also a mindset and life coach. And I just like started like plugging all of it all together. And
Cool.
that's really what produces the results for my clients is that I'm not just using one modality because usually like we need multiple angles to hit at the same thing to get it to shift completely. So I'm constantly learning and constantly trying new things.
Cool.
My clients know they're basically guinea pigs. And we're just playing.
That's awesome. I mean,
They
it
get
sounds,
results, but yeah.
yeah, it sounds, I mean, really comprehensive. Like you are coming from multiple angles. I won't go down this path, but I read The Divided Mind a long time ago, which I can't remember the author's name
Okay.
right off the top of my head, but it talks about, it's a little bit more of a, like a secular book, I would say, like
Yeah.
separate, but it talks about the division between the conscious and the subconscious mind and how the subconscious mind
Oh,
will hold emotions that manifest as pain in the body. And I was
so
like, that is
accurate.
crazy because I was dealing with pain that like wouldn't go away and I couldn't quite figure
Mm,
out why. And so I started kind
mm,
of traveling down this road, which I thought was so interesting. And
yeah.
I won't go down it, but
Yeah.
once I read it, I started thinking about it and practicing some of the techniques that it said.
Okay.
And my, I have a neuroma in my foot, or I had one,
Oh, okay.
and I started to just like internally process, and it has actually gone away. Like I can't
Awesome.
remember the last time I had pain in my foot from there. Actually, now that I'm thinking
That's
about
so
it in real
great.
time, I'm like, I actually don't have that problem anymore. Interesting. But anyway, so it just like a little
Yeah.
bit of a
I love
different
it.
perspective from that. But I'm gonna like,
Yeah.
I always find it so interesting, like how entrepreneurs like get to where they're at in terms of like, and
Yes.
most of it is born from either some personal
Mm-hmm.
problem that became a passion.
Yep.
And I love that. But one thing I want to like pull back on, and this is a question we ask everybody, is like, what is your first money memory?
That is hard. I don't, I think because of like everything that happened in my childhood, I don't have, like, I have memories of like doing things, but I don't necessarily have memories of like other things. It's hard to explain
Yeah.
because I'm like, yeah, I know we did that. But I would say there was definitely a time in my teenage years where my dad's scarcity was really just like coming up strong. And I just, and he's also like, he's an actual narcissist. I don't use that term lightly, but he is an actual narcissist, very controlling. And so it was like really kind of getting to its peak in that part of my life. And so I just remember, my mom made a grocery list and she wanted to get buttermilk, and we couldn't get buttermilk because that would be just too expensive
Interesting.
for whatever
That is
reason.
like, so how do you feel like that memory carried through or has carried
Yeah.
through? I mean, you're now working in a space where you're helping people release specific things around money too. So I'm
Yes.
curious like
Yes.
how you identified that even.
Yeah. I would say that that memory may not have been as impactful as probably, and maybe this is going down a different direction, but I feel like, to be perfectly honest, like in this conversation, like what actually impacted my money story way more was the brainwashing and what my dad thought about women. So, like,
Interesting.
I was never told I could do anything I wanted to do. So, like, I do not relate to all the females out there who were told as they were growing up, you can do whatever you want to do. I was never told that. I was also always told, like, women are the weaker vessel, like,
Interesting. Yeah.
you'll net, like, I literally had to break a spiritual vow that I will never be successful as a woman. Like that, the
Because it had been
framing
spoken over
of,
you.
yeah, like
Do
the
you was there a
amount
moment when you
of
like internally accepted it, or did you have to realize that that was spoken over you and then you know what I'm saying? Like, did you have
yeah, yeah,
a
yeah.
moment where you're like, oh, this is true about me? And then you had to go back and be like, oh, this isn't true?
Mm, it was more of like I really I really fought it internally, but when you are like hounded with it every day and like the Bible is used like as a battering ram and you are like
Interesting.
spiritually abused, you can only like have so much conscious knowledge that no, that's
Awareness.
not true before,
Yeah.
but it's still going in here.
Because it's repeated
Like,
so frequently.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, like, just when something's repeated so much, which is why I would never watch the news, by the way, when something is
Smart. Smart.
repeated so much, it's brainwashing. Sorry
Yeah.
to tell you, but it's for real.
Yeah. And there's good and bad brainwashing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, right. Right.
Because like
So,
there's like the brainwashing that's going down like with the lies, but then there's like, okay, in
mhm.
order to fix this narrative, I almost have to brainwash myself in the opposite direction. Or
Yes,
would you use a different
I
term?
have a different way of looking at that
Okay.
because I used to try like the positive affirmations, right? Where they're just like, we'll just say the opposite, right? And
Yeah.
it never worked for me. And the reason why it didn't work for me is because my subconscious knew that's not true. You don't actually believe that. And
Yeah.
so it was actually created that cognitive dissonance.
Yeah. Totally.
So I'm very like I love like yes, speak truth over yourself, speak life over yourself. You've got to 100% and manage your mind and take every thought captive and don't believe the things that are lies, which is always going to be something we're always working on.
Yeah.
But like when it comes to what I'm speaking over myself, like it needs to be something I can believe or else it may even cause greater damage sometimes.
Interesting. Okay. Cool.
That's just my take on that. Because I tried that route for like a lot and it never did anything.
Yeah.
And really what really helped me the most was going back to the past and rewriting the past with, the work that I do of taking a memory and let's neutralize it. Let's make it turn from a negative charge to neutral, or positive, and just rewrite. Like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, we want to do like nervous system regulation. I feel like what I do is way more of like nervous system retraining. Like, I don't want you to have to like wake up every morning and regulate.
Right.
Like,
Like that's not the
like,
root.
right, exactly. I want to get to the root. And so that's like what all of my work is really getting to the roots, because there's multiple usually is getting to the roots. So I don't know if
Cool.
that answers the question, but like that literally impacted like my nervous system's ability to like if you would have told me like, "Oh, Rachelle, you could have a 10K month." My body would freak out. I wanted it up
Interesting.
here. My body was like, no, we cannot have that. It was so
In-
stressed out about it. It was ridiculous.
interesting.
And I was like, what on earth? Like, how do I just get over this hump? And, and part of like what I learned, what for me, my experience, what kind of showed me how like the conscious work is so important. But if you don't do the conscious work with the subconscious work, you may not get the shift you want. So I had done like so much money mindset work. I had read so many books on money. I had, journaled through. I had reframed thoughts. I had, like sat with like, what did my parents think about money? What did my grandparents think about money? Like I had really just like leaned into that. And
Yeah.
I had trained, like I had a way different money mindset, and yet I couldn't make more money. I was
Interesting.
stuck at like 2K a month, period. End of story. And
Yeah.
it did not matter what I did. I was never getting over that 2K. And then
Interesting.
finally, I did an emotional release session where I wrote an intention around, and I muscle tested that I had a money block at 3K. So I cleared that. I cleared the money blocks I had at 3K in my body. And in 2 months, I had a complete download of a program. I had never launched a program in my life. I filled 8 out of 10 spots, my first launch. And I went from 2K to 5K months, 8K months, just like
Wow.
that.
Wow. So it's like your brain just saw a new opportunity, was
Yes.
able to articulate it, and was able to put it out there and not have any of that, like, I'm nervous, I'm scared
Resistance to the money
resistance.
coming. Yeah.
Interesting. That is so interesting.
Yes.
I won't go deep down into the muscle testing, but if you're watching this and you think we are crazy, it is a real thing.
Yes.
Functional medicine doctors practice it all the time. Gabe and I actually did worked with a functional medicine doctor in San Diego,
Oh, nice.
and she tested us for food allergies. And
Okay.
We would lay on her, little table. It's like not a weird, spooky kind of
Yeah.
thing. It was like very practical and normal. And she had these different vials of, again, sounds crazy, but it really was not, like
Yeah.
just of different food, right? And there were
Yes.
categories of food,
Absolutely.
and we would
Yep.
hold it in our hand, and we would lay down and we would hold our hand up, and then she would push our hand. And if our hand was weak, basically we were allergic, we had developed an allergy to that food. And
Exactly.
she would pull out this kind of like tens unit type machine, and
Yep.
she would clear the allergy, and then we couldn't eat that, and we couldn't eat that thing for the next like 24 hours, and then we would go the
Mm-hmm.
next day and make sure that it actually cleared out of our body. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really crazy because you go the next day and then you hold the vial of the thing that you were allergic to the day before, and your
Oh
hand
yeah.
can stay up.
Oh yeah.
And it's like you
Yes.
start to do it
Yes.
after a while, and
I
you're like, oh my gosh, like I can already tell before you push my arm down that I'm not going to be able to hold up. Like Gabe had an
yes.
allergy to coffee, and he was like devastated. He was like, oh my
Ugh.
gosh. But of course she cleared it and it was fine. He also had an allergy to my
Wow.
dad's salsa, which was, he like literally put his hand in the salsa bag, and his
Mm-hmm.
hand like could not
Mm-hmm.
be held up. So
Yeah. Yeah.
for those of you who are not like in the functional medicine world, it is a very like practical way to test what your body is, how your body is responding to stuff. So
Yep. Yep.
interesting. I could nerd out on that forever. But
Yes.
it sounds like kind of like through your childhood, you had a pretty intense experience around just money or family life, family dynamics. So like what you learned from your family was kind of maybe not 100% how you wanted to show up now. Can you talk a little bit more about how you, like, of course, you have the shift that you've made with your practice, but what does it
Yeah.
look like for you now? Like, what's your money story now? What would you say?
Mm. I would say that it's way more of like, I mean, the way I think about money now is money is always flowing around me because it literally is. If you think about how it's literally going in the air all over the world.
Yeah,
And it's really
totally.
about how do I show up and provide the most value and answer a problem and a need in the marketplace, and then I will get paid. And so, like, that's how I view money now. It's like, oh, yeah, I can make more money. I just need to, solve a problem for people. They will pay me. And really working on my worth has like my working on my self worth has made a huge impact. And of course, that's what I do with a lot of my clients because a lot of my clients come to me and I'm like, girl, you're charging way too low. But their nervous
Yeah,
system can't handle raising their prices yet until we work on, the self-worth and shifting their identity. Like that's what we're really doing is we're doing identity work and helping them
yeah,
move out of that place where they're currently at so that they can receive more. And it's wild. Like when that actually shifts, like things just start flowing. So,
that is so cool. I was thinking, I had a thought and it's gone, sadly, but
sorry.
maybe it'll come back to me. No, it was great. It was great. But I love the idea of, so you had mentioned a book at one point, something about net worth, your self worth is your net worth, or net
Oh,
worth,
yeah.
something about
Yes.
that. And Gabe actually bought
Yes.
the book. So we have it.
I
It's on
want to
our read
buy it.
list.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Awesome. I
Yeah.
literally read
So
that quote and I was like, I need this book.
this is perfect. Yeah. So we bought it. Because
Awesome.
a lot of what we do is kind of like partnership, right? Like Gabe has more
Yeah.
of like the tactical financial like depth of like, okay, if you're in this situation, like these are the things you should be thinking about. This is how you want to build your structure to kind of like build the
Yeah.
wealth. And then I'm kind of coming at
Yeah.
it from like, how do we actually get you to become the person who can manage it, steward it, give it away,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
implement these
Love
tools
that.
in a way that makes it feel easy for you, And so I
Yes.
think this emotional piece is so interesting. Like it really gets me excited. But you've
Yeah.
talked a lot
It's
about your
fun.
whole entrepreneurial journey. And I imagine that there were times where you were like, wow, I wish I would have known this sooner. Like, what are some lessons that you've learned along the way that you feel like have really changed you or changed the path that you're on?
That's such a good question. Hmm. I think I think one of them is not being afraid to pivot. Because a lot of times, especially like in network marketing, which is where I was, it was like, you never quit. You just keep on going. You never quit. And wow, that is important to not quit. Sometimes you need to pivot. Um, I have this little theory have a little theory that the people who have lots of gifts and talents that they could be creating their own program and they're still doing network marketing because of everything they're being told about where they could get in network marketing is just because they don't actually feel like they are worthy of actually making more. That's my little theory on that. Because
Interesting.
I have friends who are like they could literally be like the best mom coach. They could create a whole program and love her to death, and she's still doing that. And I'm like, girl, you could be making thousands. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, legit. But anyway, that's a side story. But
Yeah, no,
anyway,
I
like I
I
think the
actually
pivot,
I have someone in my brain who I feel like fits that
mm,
profile as well. Like she's so
yes.
brilliant. She is so brilliant, so
Mm-hmm.
talented with
Mm-hmm.
social media in particular. And I'm like, "Oh my God,
Mm.
like build something, do something, you know?" And so we're
Yes. Make
working
your
on
own
it, but
program. Yeah,
yeah,
I
we're
love
working on
that.
it.
I love that. Oh my goodness, so cool. But yeah, so like I had to work through and get coached and do a lot of self-healing work around like, okay, is it okay for me to make a pivot in my business and not focus on my Young Living business as much and really go all in over here, you know? And that was like a really hard thing to like sit with and really wrestle through, but like it has like I'm so glad that I did that. Oh, another lesson I would say is figure out where you're hiding in your business. I mean,
Hmm.
I still am doing like I'm preaching to myself here. But like when you're hiding, okay, when you're in the back end doing all the back end things, okay? And I love back end things. I love a project. I love being
Project plan.
creative. Yes, I'm like, oh, let's make a freebie. Let's do this. Like, I love that, right? And I have so many ideas. My brain is always giving me like
Yeah.
ideas, and so I love it. And it's not that that's those things that can't be beneficial for your business. 100%, they can move some things in your business, but if that's where you're focusing and you're not focusing on being in the limelight or the social media or getting your face on there or making a post or reel, then you're hiding from something. You're hiding from something. And it's really like that's the work. Like figure out why are
Yeah.
you hiding? Because for so many years of my life, I thought I was working. And I said like I worked like 60 hours a week. It was ridiculous. I was barely making
Yeah.
anything and I was like pouring my life into it. Okay?
Yeah.
But really in reality, I was actually hiding a lot and didn't know it. I
Interesting.
just thought I was always working. So that's another thing. And then the third thing is I actually had to take a break from learning and I had to just implement
That I
because
feel like those
learning
last two are
is hiding.
really, yeah, are really
So good.
connected.
Yes, because
Um,
the if you're like so focused on, oh, I got to learn this next thing. I'm going to listen to this podcast. I get to catch this replay, and that's all you're spending your business time doing. I'm sorry to break it to you, but you're not actually running a business.
yeah. Yeah. I feel that.
So,
I feel like when I first, well, I still I'll get caught in the hiding zone. And I
yeah.
can, if I'm being so vulnerable, I, I am like a slide queen. Like I can build
Mm.
slides all day long. Gabe said
Mhm.
something to me the other day, and I'm like, we were actually talking about Macy, and he was like, well, Macy spent the last 10 years developing a mastery around sales, and you spent the last year developing a mastery around slides. And I'm like, sad, but true. Because like I worked in
I'm
corporate
so
for
good
like
at
10,
Canva.
yeah, like I worked in corporate for 10 years as a corporate
Wow.
consultant. And,
Yeah.
you know, I helped organizations manage large scale change. And the best way to communicate in corporate is to make slides. And nobody can do it well. Literally, nobody can do it well. It's like
Really?
I mean, they can, but like the level of dense information that people will put on a slide and then they'll talk to
Mm.
the slide and then the slide doesn't actually say what they're saying. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's
Mm.
a different level of communication. It's not like a sales communication lens or uh on Instagram or anything like that. But I'm like, if you're trying to
Yeah.
convey a message with this slide, this is not what I would put on here. Cause what you said, I'm like, why didn't you just say that? You know, so I got really good at helping people
Wow.
basically like translate what was in their brain into a slide. But I'm like,
Okay.
that doesn't really do much in the entrepreneurial world. Like Gabe and I can make a
Fair.
great deck and a masterclass deck, but
Mhm.
we're continually refining like, okay, this is too much corporate communication. This is not enough belief shifting type stuff. But I'm saying
Yeah.
all of that
Yeah. Yeah.
context because I can hide there.
Mhm.
And I can be
Yep.
like, oh, I really don't want to do this. So I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
go make this deck over here, or I'm going to go update this PDF, or I'm going to go update this landing page. Instead
Same
of
girl.
putting my camera up and being like, hello, how's it going? I don't know what to say today, but I'm going to come up with something, you know?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I
So
am
it's,
currently hiding from sending invites to my masterclass
yes,
because
no
it's coming up.
hides. No, yes,
So,
I know. And I'm
so yeah.
excited about your masterclass. Do you want to take a second to just talk about it
Yes.
right now
Yeah,
so
I'd
you can
love
come into
to.
the light and do a quick commercial?
Yes. Yeah, so I have a masterclass coming up. It's called Upper Limits, Becoming the Woman Who's Made for More. And the whole idea is helping you understand and kind of see what kind of invisible ceilings could be impacting you and how they would show up in your business, how they would show up in your life, and then why they even are there in the first place, and really getting a good understanding of how these things impact your body and then why that impacts your brain or how you are able to show up in the world. And so it's really about just helping you have that self-awareness, and also like one of the things a lot of people walk away from is like they just are able to show themselves a lot more self-compassion, and they realize like, oh, like it's not just like because I have a wrong strategy. Like it's
Yeah.
not just like because I don't know what I'm doing. Like there's other underlying things here. And so if you've been wondering and you've been feeling like you've been stuck for whatever reason, like there could actually be a legitimate reason that we could get into and we could actually
Yeah.
release it, and then you wouldn't feel that anymore. And you don't have to gaslight yourself and tell yourself, "Oh, there's nothing wrong, just do it."
Totally.
Like
I mean, I resonate
so.
with that as like a classic, like run through the hard line. You know, I'm like a former
Mhm.
athlete. So I'm like, you just kind of like
Mm.
push through it. You just don't think
Yeah.
you just go
Yeah.
until you hit the finish line. But one thing
Mm.
that I think is so interesting about what you're doing and is related to what I've been talking about and nerding about for the last like 2 months is like this idea of capacity and like
Yes.
understanding that you have like this invisible jar inside of your
Mhm.
body that is holding your energy
Mhm.
that is
Mhm.
either leaking out at the bottom from a variety of different reasons. It sounds like big T, little t trauma could be one of those things. And
Mhm.
there's things that basically like fill your jar or fill your cup, and there's things that don't.
Okay.
And there's obviously things that can cap you too, um,
Yes.
which I think is so
Yes.
interesting. And I imagine that there are several entrepreneurs that could feel or could get into a place where it's like I'm burnt out because my energy leaks
Absolutely.
are so heavy, or I'm doing so many things that don't give me energy and there's not enough input there. And then on top
Absolutely.
of that, I might be willpowering my way through something that actually has
Mhm.
nothing to do with willpower, which is really interesting to me.
Yeah. And like
So I
I
think that's
also am
cool.
like, okay, what if your jar needs to expand? Because like for
Yeah.
me, like I when I was I don't know, in my like 22, 23, I had two kids under the age of 3. I had all this emotional trauma that I had never dealt with, didn't know it needed to be dealt with.
Yeah.
I was deep in depression, anxiety. I would have panic attacks. And first of all, I wasn't in circles where people are like, "Oh, what you're having right now, it sounds like depression." No one ever said that to me. So I had no
Yeah.
idea what was going on. I was just like, I
Is
literally, I
this
mean, my
normal?
jar was like this tiny, okay? And
Yeah.
I did not have the capacity to handle my life. I kid you not. I would sit and I would binge watch Netflix all day because I could not, I didn't have the capacity. Like, of course, I took care of my kids with that, fed them some lunch, sat them down to play. But like, I couldn't take them to the park. I didn't have the capacity to do that.
Yeah.
I also was dealing with adrenal fatigue. Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Probably Epstein-Barr virus is my guess too, because that I discovered that I had that later, and it can reactivate and all that jazz. And so I
Interesting.
had the emotional capacity of a mushroom. And it
Yeah.
wasn't until I started doing the emotional healing work that my capacity started slowly growing. I started being able to handle more and more and more and
Yeah.
more. And then sometimes, also, if you start praying for capacity, the Lord will be like, okay, cool, here's something else. Like a legit, kid you
Girl,
not, last year.
do I know that? Do I know that story in my bones?
Mm.
Yes. Go ahead, tell us your story, and then I'll tell you mine.
Yeah, last year, my kids are going to a classical academy in Cheyenne, and we were planning on sending them there for the next year. And at the same time, I'm praying for capacity. And I wake up one morning, and the Lord's like, homeschool. And I'm like, there was a lot of emotional stuff around homeschooling that I had to like release and I had to work through. And I love to tell this and say this, every breakdown can lead to your breakthrough. So I got super triggered when my homeschool book showed up on my porch one day, and I was like, well, I guess
Yeah.
that's where my next breakthrough is.
That's
And
awesome.
so, now I'm like running a business and homeschooling, and I only have like maybe 4 hours a day to run my business.
Yeah.
And it's not very much, but I'm also like, okay, let's see how
What you
how
can do.
big can I go with only this amount of
That's
time,
great.
and we're just gonna, and so that's what I'm doing right now. But yeah,
Yeah. We
yeah.
in 2024 we were listening to a Michael Todd series, I think, from
Okay.
Transformation Church, and he was talking about expanding your container, basically. Like that was the premise. And
Mm-hmm.
so, of course, when you pray for things, the Holy Spirit is interceding for you to pray for
Mm-hmm.
those things, not
Mm-hmm.
really cognitively understanding what
Mm-hmm.
that's going to mean for you. And when I tell you, I will not go into the details, but when I tell you 24 was the hardest year of my entire life, like everything that could happen that was outside of my control happened.
Mm-hmm.
Drama, chaos, grief, loss, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
2024. Whereas like going into that year, I remember feeling like I didn't really have a lot of space. Like Gabe would be able to attest. I would say,
Mm-hmm.
my cup is empty. Like I feel like my cup is empty. Like I feel like it would just
Mm.
drain. After that year, I'm like, we went back to like normal life in 2025, which wasn't really,
Mm-hmm.
you never really go
Yeah.
back after
You never
situations
go
like
back.
that.
Yeah.
I was like, this does not feel hard at all. Like my normal life just like doesn't feel difficult, And it's like now we have a 5-month
Yeah.
old baby, and I'm not saying that motherhood is not hard. I have an angel child, truly, like she is an angel baby.
Oh.
Um, but even like adding that on like doesn't really feel like
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming to me. But it was like
Mm-hmm.
only after a season of like intense, crazy stuff
Yeah. Yeah.
that it was like it expanded me in a way where it's like now I'm back into normal things, and like it just feels like a small part of a bigger jar to pull it full
Yeah.
circle.
I love that.
I probably could use some emotional release for that year. It still
Probably.
haunts me a little, and Gabe a little bit
Oh,
too. Yeah, but
yeah.
we won't go.
Mm.
That'll be it for another episode on another day. Maybe Gabe and I will do a duo. But okay, so we've talked about a few lessons.
Yes.
What were some big bets that you made from a financial perspective? Were there any?
Okay. Oh man, talk about investments. Yes, tons. Um, one of the like one of them was like signing up for my first level of mind body spirit release. My husband is literally like on disability now. Like that's the level that we were at in our life. He's working now, but like at
Yeah,
that point in time where when I wanted to do the certification, I didn't have the money, and I was like, "Hey, can we put some money into this?" And I didn't know how it was going to pan out because I had done other certifications, I had done other stuff and not made any. Like I'd made my money back, but not made like a good ROI. Let's put it that way, right? Where
yeah,
it's like, oh, like 10x that or whatever. But I was like, I I kept praying about it, and I was like, I really think like I'm supposed to do this. And literally I go in there, and I want to say like it was like closing that day, and I like emailed the gal, and I was like, hey, like can I get in? Or it was that it had just closed. I don't remember. But anyway, I got in, and that was like a big like, other people would have said, oh no, you shouldn't invest. You don't have like, you know, I
Yeah, like
really like,
kind of a reckless
yes.
idea, Rochelle.
Yeah. I'm kind of big on just taking a risk,
I
actually,
love it.
because and I have this sign on my wall. It says the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek.
I love that.
It's so good.
It
And
is
so
good.
whenever there's an investment that I'm like, okay, like in my gut, I'm like, this is what I've got to do. But like my mind is freaking out. Just like
Yeah.
the boot camp, for example.
Yeah,
Your mind is
totally. I
like,
get
am
that.
I about to do this? Am I about
Yeah.
to spend 23K?
Right.
What? But like
Yes.
you just know if I
You
don't
knew.
do this, I'm going to regret it. And you just know, like, okay, this is the cave I fear to enter. That's what I need to do. And I cannot tell
Totally.
you, like, obviously, like, I always like ask the Lord, like, hey, Lord, is like, give me if I'm not supposed to do this, close down the doors. Like, just close them all down. Don't let me pay for it. Say no, like, whatever.
Yeah.
But like, I'm telling you, like, whenever I take a big risk like that other people would be like, what on earth? Like, that's not wise stewardship. I have a thing with that a little bit because if you look at the talents, the parable of the talents, like Jesus was actually commending the servant that took a risk to invest because
Yes, he
investment is a
was.
risk. And he
That's
was
right.
commending that. And I think we live a little too safe, honestly, sometimes when it comes
I
to our
agree.
money as
I could not
Christians.
agree more. I could not agree more.
And now I think like here's like where I draw the line. I'm like, okay, if it's gonna give me a potential ROI because it's pouring into me, or this is a good investment, like whatever it happens to be. And of course, like I want to learn more about doing more investments. Like that's like future me, where I'm going, right? But like up to this point, most investments have been in myself. And sometimes that's the hardest investment to make is the investment into yourself.
1000%. Yes. And as you know, because you are a sales girl, we do have, I mean, we have been on that in the book and in the trainings. And Gabe and I have really been talking about like, what does it look like to be the person who does the thing and therefore has the stuff. Right. And I feel
Yes.
like so
Yes.
often we want to, especially with our investing, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's in ourself, it's like, I want to invest if I can ensure I'm going to get an ROI in the next
Yep.
year. And
Yep.
it's like, we were
That might
talking to
not be
actually
when you get the ROI.
totally. And we were talking with someone earlier who's in another mastermind that we're in.
Okay.
And she was saying, I'm the investment. Like the investment is for
Mm,
me, you know,
yes.
I've heard this said in multiple entrepreneurial circles is like the transformation is in the transaction. Like once you
Mm,
spend money, like a
boom.
lot of money on to develop yourself and to develop your skills in a way that's maybe not perceived as like wise. I can say like in the last like 3 months of investing in the sales girls, like I feel like a different person. Like I am being called up on a different level. Cause like Macy
That's
will not
awesome.
let you stay where you are. It's like
True
impossible
story.
to like show up in her world and not
Yeah.
change for the better or become
Yeah.
better or do more or create more capacity. And so I love what you're saying about investment and it being an investment back into yourself. And if that's actually the
Yes.
only return you get, which it
Yes.
won't be because
Right.
you're becoming a different person and that becoming, I feel like it's closing that gap that Macy talks about between who you are today and who you want to be
Mm,
and how your
100%.
subconscious doesn't really believe that yet. But as
Yep.
soon as you make some of those changes and start
Yep.
taking some of those actions, you're building your bank of evidence that proves that
Mm-hmm.
you're worth the investment. And I imagine that can shift your subconscious as well.
Oh, absolutely. It changes like how you view money. It changes like your self-worth, A, and then B, like I so agree with Macy when she's like, you cannot ask somebody to make an investment that you have never made. I like
That's right.
so agree with that. And I actually, what I did before I launched my signature program, because I had never invested 5K in myself. I invested like 23, I invested like, 1500 here, all that,
Yeah.
right? But I never invested in 5K. And so I had a signature program like ready, like in my mind, like it was like getting built out in my mind. And I was like, okay, I need to go find somebody and I'm going to pay them 5 grand so that when I go and I sell 5 grand to somebody else, I know exactly what it feels like. And I'm going to be like, this is so worth it. You have no idea how worth it
Totally.
is.
Totally. Like,
Yeah.
and it's like you want people to understand that. Cause it's like
Yes.
I'm still working through this in my own mind, but it's like it's changed me for the better. Like I don't actually yeah, like it's changed me for the better. Like I don't know how to else to explain it. Like when you start to invest in yourself and in that way and in that magnitude, it changes your brain chemistry. I feel like it has to,
Absolutely.
and
It
all that
totally does.
stuff.
The
Kind of
other
like
thing that does,
yeah.
sorry, I keep
No, go
interrupting.
for it.
I was just going to say the other thing that can help change your brain chemistry, especially like when you are like fighting against scarcity mindset and poverty mindset, which is like what I grew up with. And like there's still moments where I'm like, oh, there it is again. It's just cropping up again. I just have to like fight against it just all the time because it's been
It's
so
so we
ingrained.
live in a scarce world. That's what
We
people think.
really do.
That's what
That's what
people
people think.
think.
Exactly.
And that's the story that's
Exactly.
being told on the news, on social
Yes.
media, anywhere that you
Yes.
go in your families. Like it's so ingrained, even in family systems and friend systems. Like if you start to notice
Yeah.
it, it's everywhere. It's like
Yeah. I
programming your
literally,
mind.
oh my word. Don't get me started on why.
Right.
They just want you to be a servant and they don't want you to make any money because then you'll rely on the government. And then
That's
guess
right.
what? You're a slave of government. Anyway, which is
well,
why,
well,
which is why you and
yeah,
me, we're like, we want you to be successful. We want you to have wealth. Like,
yeah,
we want you to succeed because it is so important for not only just your family, but for the world around you, for the culture around you. Like,
yeah.
when you are able to, you have more money to do more good things in this world. Like, that's exactly what we need. Anyway, okay. Anyway,
1,000%. I couldn't agree with you more on that. Like the less I'm worried about myself and my bills and my finances, the more I can pour into other people, the more I can give to other people, the
yes,
more I can be a blessing to other people. Like I feel like when you're too close gripped, you're only really thinking about yourself and what you need. And
100%.
that's like a
Yes,
recipe for a life that is pretty miserable. I feel
yeah.
like the more
Well,
I
and
get caught up thinking about myself, the more miserable I am.
mm, that is so good. That is so good. Mic drop right there, right there.
Yeah, that's
But
why I feel
yeah,
like
like,
motherhood changes you.
mm, mm,
You know, I would say I'm an older mom, like I'm 35, almost
mm.
36, and just had my first
Aw,
kid and I'm like, man, what have I been doing? I'm like, I wish I started this like 10 years ago. I didn't know Gabe back then. I would not have a kid with
sure.
anyone else, but like
Aw,
why didn't I like
love
it
it.
just it puts things into perspective. Like giving
Yeah.
more of yourself has taken nothing from me. It's given me more. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, you know,
That's
because you're a
so
mom.
good. That's
But
so
I feel like
good.
there's a narrative too in
Mm,
society right now that it's going to take from you to be a mom, and it's done nothing but
yes.
give me, even though
Mm,
it's
I
all my
love
energy
that.
goes that way. So, anyways, another
Yeah.
rant for another day. But
That's so good. And I'm still like there was tons of trauma around my motherhood journey. And
yeah,
so I have not had that same experience because there has been just so much that I'm still healing. But I
Yeah.
love, like, that is how it should be. Like, I love that so much because you're so right. Like, when we take the focus off of us, then like everything else works so much better.
Yeah.
And like two things that are like popping into my head, when Jesus says that whole like verse about like do not be anxious, do not worry about tomorrow, do not worry about what you're going to eat or drink.
Yeah. Matthew
It's
6, I'm pretty
so
sure. I think.
Yes, it's Matthew 6. And if you look at the whole thing in context, worrying about worrying about saving money, worrying about making too much or making too little, it's all the same thing. It's all worrying about money. Like as long
Yeah.
as you focus on the money, that's where you're going to have the issues. If you can just get your focus off of the money, things will just flow. But the other thing I was going to say is like if you're working on your poverty mindset and you want to like shift into like abundance and actually feel like what it feels like, go to a ritzy hotel. Go sit in the lobby. Go surround yourself with people that are making that level of money because it helps your nervous system be like, this was so interesting to me. Back in November, my husband and I went to Vegas for our anniversary trip. And I've done a lot of, emotional healing stuff at this point. I've done a lot of money work at this point, and nervous system work. And it was so interesting to me because I felt, I never felt like I belonged
Hmm.
in like, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. I never felt like I belonged with other people who are making a lot of money. But here I am in Vegas. I'm not making a ton of money, but that's fine. And I just was like, oh yeah, like I'm just gonna go into Michael Kors and I'm gonna try on this dress. And I
I
could have
love
bought the
this.
dress if I loved it. But literally, like but
I
like
had this
what was
idea the
so
other day. It's so funny that you're saying this.
okay.
I literally had this idea the other
Oh,
day. I'm like, I should go do this.
yes, you should. Because it
Yeah.
changes, it shifts your nervous system. Because like if you go in and you're like, oh, I'll just never be able to afford this, like that, no, that's not gonna work. You gotta go in and be like, let me try this on. Like, let me touch this, beautiful. There was this sheath dress, girl, and the price was a little like, oh, but like the quality was there, okay? If I would have had the money, I probably would have bought it. But it was like $1,000, okay, for a sheath dress. I don't even remember which store it was in, but it was so cool. But the other thing that was really interesting to me is right before we went on this trip, my brain had never given me this thought before. Okay, this tells you like this is why I say we got to work on this stuff to get this to like
Yeah.
open up. But I never had this thought. I realized like, oh my word, like I know how I could make 200K next year, and it was like boom. Like I've never thought that big in my life. Like
Oh, cool.
I know how to make 200K. And so I go to Vegas with that thought that my brain is like, oh yeah, I know how to do that. So interesting. We'll see what happens this year. I'm like, how close can we get? I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
you're gonna
you
smash
know,
it.
I know. I'm so excited to see like where we're at. I'm like, we're still building the momentum. So, it's a little slow at the moment, but that's okay because we're not at the end of the year yet.
Yeah,
There's plenty of
you
time.
can't. Yeah, plenty of
Yeah,
time.
there's plenty of time. But I went to Vegas and I know that in my I don't want to say soul, but like in the back of my mind, I've always been a little bit worried about like okay, like what about, the spirit of mammon, like greed, like what about that? Like
Sure.
I don't want to fall into that. And so here I am in Vegas at the wow, my brain. Venetian, the Venetian. It's amazing. You've got to go to the Venetian. And I'm just walking around to all these stores and they're just amazing. Like all of the like high end like fashion. And see, I used to sew. I would watch Project Broadcast with Michael Kors. And I had never
Yes.
been into a Michael Kors store in my whole
That
life.
is awesome.
And
I
so it was just
love
like,
that show.
it just was full circle. It was like, oh my word, like it was kind of like, oh my word, like let me step back into like my love for fashion, honestly. It was like how it was feeling.
Yeah,
But
cool.
I was looking around at everybody else and it was so interesting because I was having the time of my life and I was just having so much fun. And there were so many people in Vegas They were not happy. They're literally like sitting there gambling and they're not having fun. You could
Right.
just see it in their eyes. They're not happy. They're not,
Yeah.
they don't have the joy of the Lord. And I'm like, okay, I will be fine. I'm like, I am so happy and I don't have like everything that they have. And I also know exactly who I'd be. Like when I make 200K, like I'm going to be the same person. And the joy
Yeah.
of the Lord is what is why I can have
Sustains.
fun. Yeah. And
It
they're
fills the
unhappy.
metaphorical jar to keep
There we go.
the
The metaphors
the
going.
analogy going through. Yeah, I
I love
agree.
it.
I agree.
Okay.
I mean, there is there's something to be said, and I think this ties well into like kind of like what I'll say is like maybe our closing question is, and so often we talk to people about, obviously building up their portfolios, building up their assets, protecting their assets, doing all of these things. But one question that we help a lot of our clients with that you'd be surprised maybe is like, what
Mm.
does wealth actually mean to you? Right.
Yes.
I'm sure you've heard that your health is your wealth. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything. Um, but it's like if you were to have if money was no issue to you at all, like what are, and at the same time, like your business is helping you achieve this version of wealth, like what is the end goal? Like what is the dream, so to speak, for you
Yeah.
and your family?
Oh, I love this question. I was literally just thinking about this last week. And I actually discovered something really interesting, but I'm going to try and keep to the point here. Okay. I really want to travel more with my kids. I want to just be able to take them on trips and just go places. So that's a big one. And then also just like I'd love to buy an RV. That would be super cool. Just
That's awesome.
travel with that. Yeah, I know. And someday, I live in Wyoming right now, so it's not going to happen here. But someday, I'd really like to buy a house with a pool in the backyard. That would be,
That is awesome. I've heard
I
that
would love that.
Wyoming is great in the summer.
It is, yes. It's just not like it would be pointless to have a pool for 3 months of the year.
Oh, well, my parents have a pool in South Carolina and it's not heated. And so they only use it now through they only use it in the summer. We're like, get the heater. You can afford it.
Get the
Like
heater. Yeah,
get the heating on the pool. Like
you would
my dad
use
will
it so
literally
much
cold
more.
plunge in the winter. It's wild. But I'm like, he gets in it all the time. Like in the summer, he's in it every day. So I'm like,
Okay.
just heat the pool. Yeah. So, like, you know what I
So
mean?
that,
Like, that
and
kind
then,
of, that's the
yeah,
dream, like having a heated pool in Wyoming. I
yes.
mean, maybe not
Yeah.
that, maybe that's not your dream, but like, even that idea, could really,
Yes.
really
I
go for,
mean,
go
I
ahead.
was thinking like I'm thinking Arizona, Texas, or Florida is where it eventually like I know right now this is where we're supposed to be, but eventually
Yeah.
if the Lord wants to move us, I'm hoping for
For one of
one of
those
those
three.
warmer
Yeah.
climates.
Cast your votes,
So
cast your votes.
and
Miami.
then also would love to just like I have two other things and then I was gonna say it's like I really want to be able to like build wealth for my kids so that
Yeah.
they could, use that to buy a home someday. That would be amazing. I'm like I'm like, how far are we from that? That's how it feels right now.
Yeah.
And then the third one is just like being able to just give generously and just help a lot of people. I'd love to find like an organization that like helps people. I mean, I know Habitat for Humanity, but like helps people buy homes and get into a home because I just feel like that's a huge issue in today's world. Like the
Yeah.
struggle to be able to buy a house is just, and I know
Yeah.
like friends who are struggling right now, and I'm like, like if
Yeah.
only,
Totally. If
Anyway,
only.
I'll shut
Yeah.
up
So
now.
give your, no, no, please, please. It's good. I love the dreaming part. I'm curious, like so many people say travel. What do you feel like
Mm,
travel would give you?
yeah, I feel like it's just memories. I think for me, the reason why I like cling to that, and I will say like cling to that because it's been like what has like propelled me for a long time is because like in my childhood, that was when I had a lot of happy memories, is when we were
Mm-hmm.
traveling. And
Hmm.
so there's like this part of me that's like, oh, we won't build these happy memories. I know that's not entirely true. And
Yeah.
I need to work on building happy memories, where we are. But there's just so much to that of like, oh, like when everyone's relaxed, and they're just having fun, the memories just seem different because you're not like, oh,
Totally.
I have chores to do, dishes to
Yeah.
wash,
You're a little
that
bit
kind of
more
thing.
on the non-planned plan on vacation when you're traveling.
Exactly.
I love
Yeah.
it. Well, thank you so much. This has been such an interesting conversation. What is, to close us out, like, what do you feel like would be one piece of advice that you would give an entrepreneur listening?
I would say just even just like start listening to your body and not always just push past it. And that's how I got to adrenal burnout. Is just pushing
Yeah.
past it, pushing past the fatigue, not listening, not hearing that I needed to slow down and I needed to rest. So I'd say just, I think that's like an entrepreneurial thing. Like ambitious women, like we just like want to go, 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 go. And usually
Totally.
there's a deeper reason why we have to go, 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 go. And usually it's because if we actually slowed down, we'd actually have to sit with some things that we just don't want to sit with.
Yes,
So
that has been
there's
true
that.
in my life for sure. But that sounds like a conversation for maybe another time. Again, thank you so
Yep.
much. I
Thank
appreciate all your
you.
wisdom and